Under Armour started making Steph Curry signature sneakers, I was a fan. In fact, I even defended the Curry line even when it seemed to reach its lowest point.
These shoes look like a golf cart had sex with a jar of mayonnaise.
That was then, this is now, and Steph Curry has a huge sneaker problem, which quite frankly, as someone who plays in a ton of basketball sneakers year to year, and just as a general consumer alone, I'm actually really offended by. Allow me to explain. All right, so let's just start at the beginning. Like I said, I was a huge fan of the early Curry silhouettes. Both the Curry 1 and 2 were awesome on-court performers. And while they did lack some off-court appeal, I thought their overall visuals really fit in with the brand, and they look pretty slick on the court, which is where it counts the most. I do also quickly want to mention the Curry 3 because while it was more of an acquired taste visually, actually, they were pretty bad. At the time, it was my favorite model in terms of performance, as it was the most versatile Curry to date, which proved to me as a consumer that Under Armour wasn't necessarily concerned with off-court appeal, but instead on-court performance, which was totally okay with me, especially after Under Armour fumbled with the Steph Curry 2s. However, all this seemed to change with the eventual release of the Curry 4. During the 2017 finals, Steph debuted his 4th signature model, and the consensus was that this was hands down the best looking Curry sneaker Under Armour has ever put out. And personally, I couldn't agree more. The Curry 4 was a beautiful silhouette, and Steph debuting them in the finals in a stunning white and gold colorway made fans extremely excited about its eventual release, which unfortunately wouldn't happen until October. That is a questionable call in terms of building hype for a product only to let that hype die and then expect consumers to be hyped again come release date, which again was an entire 4 months later.
That's stupid. Use your common sense.
I mean, come on, think of Apple, the king of consumer hype, right? When Apple announces the new iPhone, that iPhone releases 2 weeks later from the initial announcement. Not a month, not 2 months, not 3 months, and certainly not 4 months like what Under Armour did with the Curry 4. Yeah, not the smartest product rollout that we've ever seen before, but all would have been forgiven had the Curry 4s been just as good as we all thought it was going to be. But the reality of the situation was they were a huge disappointment performance-wise. They lacked a lot of technology that we saw in previous models, with the cushioning system being an absolutely complete dud. On top of that, I personally experienced multiple durability and quality issues with the materials, which just added to the disappointment, especially considering how excited we all were for a Curry sneaker to actually make a splash in the sneaker world. There's really no other way to put it, guys. Under Armour had the perfect opportunity here to provide a killer looking sneaker that performed at a high level on the court as well as on the shelves with a competitive price point. And had they checked all of those boxes, the Curry 4 could have been a major turning point, not just for the Curry signature line, but for Under Armour as a brand. But then there were the Curry 5s. Now, this is pretty simple. The Curry 5 absolutely tore my foot up, and I was not the only one that experienced this absolute blender of a shoe, which caused multiple blisters that would scare any user. But don't worry, the traction and cushion were also lackluster as well, and the visual design was simply meh. Long story short, the Curry 5 was one of the worst and most forgettable Curry designs of all time. So if you've been following along now, that is now 2 bad releases from Under Armour in a row. So at this point, if you had given up on the Curry signature line already, I mean, I honestly wouldn't have blamed you because I was losing faith in it myself. Now, to be fair, Under Armour did rebound a little with the 6s and the 7s since they were both solid on-court performers, but in the grand scheme of things, they were also pretty forgettable and really failed to make an impact in any way since the hype for Curry's signature line had essentially died. However, despite all of this, the Sevens did see a $10 price increase, which was actually a sign of things to come, but not in a good way. So here we are, present day, the Curry 8 and 9. Now, we are actually combining these two because they're essentially the same shoe with just slight changes in design, but overall, these two silhouettes actually represent a new era for Curry sneakers, which I think is a huge misstep because not only does this new era of shoes inherit a lot of the same problems found in the earlier silhouettes, but they also create new ones, which personally for me are a complete deal breaker. Under Armour released the Curry 8 under a new brand called Curry Brand in an attempt to separate Steph's brand while still remaining under the Under Armour umbrella. Basically, Under Armour was trying to make their own Jordan brand, just instead of Jordan, it's Steph Curry. Now on the surface, I actually think this is fine. Curry is absolutely this generation's signature player, right up there with LeBron. And honestly, the Curry 8 is a beautiful looking sneaker that performs great on the court as well. And the same can be said for the 9s, although I think they took a slight step back visually, but still, Curry Brand has a lot of good things going for it. New tech, beautiful silhouette, a new logo, good on-court performers, but the one fatal mistake that they made with Curry Brand is the price. The Curry 8 launched with a retail price of $160, which put the Curry line in a tier that is only accompanied by LeBron James, Jordan Brand, and Kobe Bryant as the most expensive signature basketball sneakers on the market. Think about that for a second. Under Armour is putting Steph shoes in the same breath as LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Kobe Bryant. That to me is a huge mistake because Kobe and Jordan, those guys are sneaker legends, absolute icons. And while LeBron might not be as iconic sneaker-wise, he is arguably the second best player of all time. And he also has the power of the swoosh, which is by far the biggest sneaker company in the world. So honestly, guys, it blows my mind that Under Armour has the hubris to put their product at a price line above other popular signature lines such as Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Paul George, and Damian Lillard, especially when you consider the fact that both the Curry 8 and 9 as a standalone product with brand loyalty and prestige put aside is simply not worth $160. The Flowtech outsole featured on both the 8 and 9s is made up of a very pliable rubber compound, which means it's not very durable. And the pairs that I've played in have all seen significant wear over the course of only 2 or 3 months of indoor use, which is unacceptable for a shoe at this price point. Now, it is worth mentioning that Flowtech does feel great. It's a really versatile setup that will cater to a lot of different players with different play styles and different preferences, but so does a lot of other tech, such as Nike Air and Light Strike, which can both be found in other models at much cheaper price points. The point I'm trying to make is not even Nike, with the power of the swoosh and brand loyalty with consumers across the globe, not even they can charge $160 for a Kevin Durant sneaker, which in some cases feature double stack zoom units as well as a full-length Zoom Air struggle board. So why in the world does Under Armour and Curry Brand think they can charge a premium? Personally, I think this is a huge problem that is significantly hurting Curry Brand's appeal, especially to the consumers or audience that it should be appealing most to. Because recently, I went to a couple of my nephew's AAU tournaments, which feature kids from the age ranges of, say, like 13 to 17. And both of these tournaments were here in the Bay Area. So Steph being one of the most popular players in the league, in the Bay Area especially, should theoretically have a large presence or a very known presence on the feet of these kids that were at these AAU tournaments. Right? Wrong. I saw maybe 3 pairs of Curry sneakers across these 2 tournaments. And actually one of the Curry shoes that I saw was the budget 3.5Zs, or 3Z5s, which retail for only like $80. So overall, I only saw a couple of Curry signature sneakers at AAU tournaments in the Bay Area, which to me, that is just a massive failure because this is really the target demographic for Curry brand. I mean, young kids in the San Francisco Bay Area. That's who should be buying Curry's the most. But it hurts even more that across these 2 tournaments, I saw way more LaMelo Ball Puma sneakers than I saw Curry sneakers, which again is just a big fat L for Under Armour. Another thing that I think is really hurting the brand's overall appeal to consumers is the fact that they keep changing the tech that's featured in the Curry line, which doesn't allow consumers to really get comfortable with something that they may really like. I mean, take Nike for example. They've been using Nike Air for decades. So if you enjoyed Zoom in Kobe's, you can now play in Zoom in Paul George's or Kyrie's, and the list goes on and on. But let's say, for example, Charge Phone, which was in the Curry one. Let's say that was my favorite out of all the technology that Under Armour has used throughout the entire line. Well, screw you. You got to use Flowtech because that's what we're using now. Look, I get it. It's a business. They want what's in my wallet, but it just feels shady to me. It doesn't feel right. And Steph Curry, the guy is a generational talent. He's a top 10 best player of all time. He changed the game forever, which again, Under Armour regularly reminds us of in their marketing campaigns. So a player of that caliber with all of that should really have a much larger presence in the sneaker culture than Steph currently has. And I think a solution to all these problems that I laid out today is price. I honestly really do think that if the Curry 8 retailed for $130, that would get people really intrigued to kind of just try out a Curry signature sneaker. Because like I said earlier, Under Armour doesn't have a huge place in basketball or sneaker culture. But if they saw the Curry 8, which like I said is a slick looking sneaker for $130, that's a very wallet friendly price of entry, right? And once people get that shoe on their feet, they're gonna realize that Flowtech is awesome. It's great. And for $130, that feels like a fair deal, especially because the Curry 8 and 9 does have durability issues. So when you charge $160 for something that isn't going to last very long, the consumer just kind of gets felt like they got played a little bit. I mean, really, I just don't think charging a premium price for a sneaker that comes from a company that has virtually zero cachet in the basketball world makes any sense at all. I just don't see it. And if you don't believe me, just take a look at Puma. The MB.01s retail for $120. And in my humble opinion, the MB.01 is not as good of a sneaker, both visually and performance-wise, as either the Curry 8 or 9. But remember, like I said earlier, I see way more LaMelo Ball sneakers on the court these days than I see Steph shoes. But why is that? Well, is it because LaMelo's a better player than Steph Curry? Definitely not. Okay, well, is it because LaMelo's way more popular than Steph Curry? No, Steph has more than 5 times the amount of followers than LaMelo Ball on Instagram. Okay, well, is it because Puma's a bigger company than Under Armour? Well, that one's actually a little debatable, but remember, Puma just started making basketball shoes. They hadn't had a signature basketball shoe since Vince Carter. So if anyone should have a leg up in the basketball signature sneaker sector, it should be Under Armour, but unfortunately, they don't. It's price. It's gotta be price. It's the only tangible difference between the Melos and the Currys, because performance, looks, brand loyalty, all of that, that's all somewhat subjective. So it's got to be price. So Under Armour, Curry brand, Steph, if by any chance you're watching this, please make your shoes accessible. I'm not saying you're not worth a premium price. I'm just saying consumers aren't willing to pay a premium price yet. In the future, maybe, but right now, they're just not willing to pay for it. So please make Steph shoes accessible, because honestly, you've been making some pretty damn good silhouettes, and I feel that more people, especially here in the Bay Area, should be wearing your shoes. All I want is the best for Steph, and I feel like the best for Steph is to have an affordable, good looking, good performing sneaker. Check all of those boxes, because Steph, honestly, he deserves it. So what say you? What do you guys think is the big problem with Steph Curry sneakers? Please let me know in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Next video, we're gonna be ranking the 10 best signature sneaker logos in the NBA right now. So subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss that video. My name's Jaron. It's been great having you. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.